Well, if your long weekend travel plans include a flight on WestJet, keep an eye on your inbox. The union representing the airline's flight attendants has issued a 72-hour strike notice, meaning the clock is now ticking for Canada's second largest airline to make a deal with its workers. There's, of course, never a good time for an airline to be affected by a strike, but the looming long weekend is particularly difficult because it means tens of thousands of passengers are now caught in the middle of these labor strikes. Darren McAfee leads off our coverage this morning. So, Darren, talk to us more about sort of what happened overnight with dueling strike and lockout notices. Take us through now what, of course, the airline and the union are saying.
Well, giving notice, of course, of a strike doesn't necessarily mean that the strikes will definitely happen. But as to say, it's going in the wrong direction, isn't it? And it means that strikes could happen if there isn't a deal as early as Sunday. And as you say, WestJet have now also essentially counter-attacked, if you like, by issuing this lockout notice as well. And publicly, things do seem to be going in the wrong direction. But negotiations are continuing. This could affect a lot of people because WestJet operate around 600 flights per day. They carry around some 700,000 passengers, and it really couldn't come at the worst time given that we are in the peak of summer. Let's have a look at what both sides, though, are saying this morning. Let's start with the unions, with the Canadian Union of Public Employees. Their president has said that they've been clear about what needs to change, and we have worked hard to reach a fair deal. They say that there is still time to avoid a strike. We continue to bargain around the clock until this is resolved. And in addition to this, then, we've also heard from the WestJet CEO effectively saying that they have issued this lockout notice in response to actions taken by the union. It was not one they say they took lightly, and they sincerely regret the inconvenience and the uncertainty this is likely to cause their guests. And they say that while they greatly value the work and contributions of the cabin crew, it is their responsibility to ensure the integrity of their network. And they still say, again, that element of positivity, that there is still time to avoid this strike, that they will continue to bargain around the clock until it is resolved.
So as the deadline is looming, we've got that 72-hour notice. Talk to us about the sticking points then.
Well, the sticking point is fundamentally about pay, if we're going to be honest about this, and to a degree about working conditions. Now, the union represents some 4,400 flight attendants. When they put this to a vote of members, 99% of them voted in favour of strike action earlier this month. As I say, it is largely about what the union sees as unpaid work. And this is what a representative of the unions, Cameron Jones, had to say about the reason for strike action a little earlier in the week.
Definitely, there's kind of two key issues that are going on relating to compensation directly. One being obviously the unpaid work that we've identified, but then also at WestJet flight attendants, being the second largest carrier in Canada, are amongst the lowest paid within the industry. And even WestJet themselves identified that some members were effectively making less than federal minimum wage.
As I say, WestJet say they are continuing to engage with these negotiations and that they are willing and hope to strike a deal.
Yeah, so passengers now, WestJet customers, what do they need to keep in mind?
Well, the advice fundamentally this morning is to sit tight, actually, and see how this plays out. I know it's not ideal. There's a lot of uncertainty around, particularly if your flight is going to be in the coming days or the coming months. Fundamentally, the advice is to sit tight because it's best if WestJet, unfortunately, if they cancel your flight, it does mean they have to either provide alternative transportation, or if you book a different airline and a different ticket, then they then have to pay for that. Now, at the moment, WestJet are also allowing passengers flying between today and August 4th to make a one-time change or to cancel it without a fee. But as I say, given the uncertainty, if you are willing to ride that uncertainty, as I say, the advice is to sit tight. There is also the possibility that the federal government might get involved in all of this. And we heard a little yesterday from the Minister for Transportation, almost dancing around this question about whether they would get involved in this strike action.
Parties are at the table. They're negotiating, I know, very intensively. My information is that those talks are progressing. Obviously, I leave it to the parties to characterize those talks, but they are very, very well supported by the Federal Mediation Service, and we're hopeful that they reach a negotiated agreement.
What this deadline does provide, though, is a sense that it may knock those heads together, that negotiations really do need to intensify, but it does create lots of uncertainty for those hundreds of thousands of passengers who are going to fly potentially over the next couple of days into next week.
Indeed. OK, we'll keep a close eye on it. Darren, thank you so much for this.